Welcome back from the break. We are at TMUC and we are, conducting this question answer session on teacher training and how to improve the quality of teacher. But one point that came forward during the previous segment was to give the kind of status that a teacher deserves as well. We keep on talking about that. But how to do it is the actual question. What is the ask? I'm going to come back to the floor, but I want ma'am to actually answer that.
Yeah. As we have already set the tone of the discussion here, we have come up. Teacher alone is only one corner of the pyramid of the stakeholders, where the community and the parents comes. We are talking about the voicing of the teacher, but we are such program like the discourse we are having today is one of the, I think, rare phenomena even in the media.
Okay.
We hardly have any programs on education and the problems related to education sector. So we need to open up discussion in the society and more often on the media as well. So the discourse is started, and then the change can actually come up as a ripple effect. Change cannot happen overnight. We cannot make Pakistan, Finland in one night or in one 5 years plan.
Or do we want to make Pakistan, Finland at all?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And that is a big question as well, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but that I'll take that answer. Waqas, do you want to comment on that as well? How to improve or give teachers the status they deserve?
It's a very complex kind of a phenomenon, and it's a very complex kind of a situation, because giving teachers respect cannot be, separated from what our generally state and society's fabric is. Yeah. So, as in state and as in society, we are a society that loves to be, hovering around the power corridors, and especially since we have the colonial roots as well. So in this connection, we are generally, going towards all those careers which have somehow a notion of dominance and influence in the society. So in that context, I guess this narrative, state can do that, and state can change that, and gradually, the teacher's profession can be brought into the realm of respect as it should be.
And are we looking at some time frame here as well or not?
I don't know when it comes to Pakistan. Giving a time frame is a very tricky thing.
No, but the biggest concern is that we always keep on talking in abstractions, and that becomes a problem. Let us go back to the floor.
My question is how government is investing in teachers training?
There is budgetary allocations. Actually, every year, there is a good percentage of budget is dedicated for teachers training, and we have been spending and sometimes lapsing some. So it is but I cannot say that we have actually government has enhanced the project or the budget, or actually we are spending an enormous amount. It might not be true. But yes, we are spending a good percentage of annual budget on teachers training.
And I'll be obliged if somebody actually slips in percentages also. Give us some idea of the numbers that are there.
So, I mean, if you look at the national budget, the line of training actually doesn't exist, or did not exist, a couple of years back, when I last saw it, okay? So, a lot of the teacher training is financed through the annual development plan or schemes, that the government comes up with from year to year. So, it is not a recurrent sort of policy of the government that X number of teachers will be trained every year regardless. There's been a lot of push on teacher training from the donor community and international aid agencies, and the training of teachers, particularly in-service teachers, actually has picked up over the last 8 to 10 years as a result of the push from donor communities. On the government side, the commitment is there, but mostly through these annual programs and schemes.
Right. Faisal Sahab, want to add to this?
You see, it's no rocket science to fix or to invest in teacher education and their professional development. We need to create a service culture and a service structure and a sense of identity. So just a few examples for the government of Pakistan, both federal and provinces. Now it's, outsourcing a public sector school to a private sector party, it becomes a political subject. It has a lot of risk associated with it, because then it is used for profiteering. So a good starting point for the government is outsource teacher training and professional development to the private sector. Okay. Karachi, Lahore, Peshawar, Islamabad, Rawalpindi, Faisalabad, has now well established training, mentoring, coaching, skill development, professional development institutes, because government's institutes of MITES, PIDES, training, professional development, minus Islamabad and a few in Punjab, they are dysfunctional. What to talk about ghost schools in KP and in Balochistan. Next point, I'm a Pakistani who has traveled to Bhalwal, to Chakswari, to Pasni, to Tando Muhammad Khan, to Gwadar. My teachers of my country, public sector teachers, are passionate. They genuinely are into teaching and learning. And you cannot compare a teacher of the northern area, Sawat, Gilgit, Baltistan, that is a whole new different generation. These people are not recognized, they're not rewarded. They are in a fix. So for example, recently I was in the interim setup as a government minister in Punjab, and we were there to support free, transparent elections. So as a minister, what did I do? Every day I used to visit a government office and a setup, and I used to recognize and appreciate people. You cannot waste government money. So I used to put my investment through a pen and a paper. I wrote a lot of recognition and appreciation letters to a lot of government sector teachers, professionals, workers that I came across. And their level of motivation could be experienced. Then of course, building an overall school culture, a management culture, a service culture, salaries are good, and I think the whole concept of recognition and reflection is missing. Merit, recruitment systems should be based on merit. And so I think these are some of the fundamental issues. We need to create the respect for the profession, recruit the right teachers, retain them, and reflect on the teaching and learning skills. Okay then.
That's a good idea. And Vikas, I will also want you to actually come in here. Otherwise, I have a question waiting for you as well. But here's the problem. When we are talking about giving teachers that kind of recognition as a society, a lot is attached to wealth or the kind of power people enjoy in this society. And this is not merely about my society, it is about societies all over the world. And the teachers usually don't have that kind of A, money, B, that kind of power. So how are you going to actually make them central characters of your television dramas, your stories, your novels, if they don't have that kind of punching power?
In fact, if I'll talk about university teachers specifically, so now university teachers have two tracks of service. One is tenure track and other is the basic pay scale. And the teachers who are on tenure track, they have money, they have wealth. So I mean, it's a very well, in fact, paid track. And then there is promotion is very rapid. And then along with that, teachers do not have hard power, but they have soft power. You know, they can persuade, they can influence in certain other ways, not necessarily they can do coercion. And in a society, if you want to, bring recognition to any of the profession, and especially the teachers, you have to create heroes. And you have to, in order to create heroes, you have to recognize, and state can do so by, rewarding them in terms of, you have national awards on 23rd March and 14th of August. And along with that, you can, build a narrative through your state media and your other mediums where, you can have advocacies, you can have social marketing through which you can basically campaign for this cause that you have to give respect to the teacher. Because if you're campaigning for, giving respect to the, in fact, not to do the corruption and other things, you can do a campaign for giving respect to the teachers because they are the nation builders. And at times people needs to be sensitized. People know.
Also, sir, to add on, respect should not just be given, it should be earned.
It should be
you
earned.
see, even in private sector classrooms, they are, they are stuck teachers and they're moving teachers. So we also have teachers, they're stuck in their own narratives and thinking, beta, you sit down, I'm elder to you, and what I'll tell you is right. And that's where his thinking comes upon. Reflection, engagement, classroom learning, experiential learning, collaborative. Why are we children sitting like in a regimented military-styled classroom, sit and look towards the blackboard? Is blackboard? Classrooms have become collaborated. Teachers have to earn through their teaching to earn the respect. I do not believe in just giving someone respect just for the sake of it, because of their institution, their identity, or their position, or they're in a position to influence and power.
But I hope both of you actually realized that earlier we were talking about renegotiating the social contract. On one side, we are talking about that big or that meta an idea. On the other side, when I ask you, you can bring up the old tools that are available and more or less being used, right? Because that becomes a huge problem because you cannot reinvent a society. Let me go back to the floor. Any more questions? Yeah, please.
I would request any one of you panelists, respected panelists, to answer my question. Our curriculum has always been a controversial subject, some calling it obsolete, not able to meet the needs of the millennial era, not supporting creative thinking. Your comments on this?
In government sector, actually, like curriculum has been recently revised in 2017, and exactly on the lines of what you indicated, like 21st century skills and value education. For the very first time, federal government actually like printed educational standards and value education as a curriculum guideline to develop curriculum on. So the recent revision is being gone. Pre-1, Prep 1 to 5 has been completed, and then grade 6 to 8 is on the way. And the next phase will be the curriculum for the higher classes. And exactly on the because the calls of 21st century and believing on what you said, like we cannot train the future on the strategies of past. The curriculum has to be innovated, and they are being done in the federal level. But after devolution, we cannot ask provinces to follow it. We can only I think federal minister can be the right person to answer that, how he can convince provinces to adopt that revised curriculum.
Right. Dr. Saab, go ahead.
Ji, so just add to what the colleague said here. So yes, curriculum has been revised over the last few years, and it includes all the ideas that should be there for the 21st century to prepare our children. I think that the curriculum, when it translates into the textbooks, and that is when it is implemented, it is somewhat overloaded. You see, the way I have looked at it and sort of made a comparison with some of the other countries in the region. I think we are trying to cover a lot.
Ideologically, or
I think the content. So this is an overload, that I have seen in some of the textbooks, at the primary level, and I have compared it with India and Bangladesh, and when you look at the situation in our classrooms, the preparation levels of our teachers, given that in most of the schools you don't have enough teachers, across the provinces. You have 2 to 3 to 4 teachers, and I'm talking of primary level. So you have multi-grade teaching also happening. So given the overload of the curriculum, this becomes, yet another challenge, for the teachers to sort of, eventually,
and
achieve.
who is actually developing the curriculum?
The curriculum, we are still, sticking to the 2006 curriculum that was developed. There are minor changes.
And I was a bit taken aback when you said 2017, because my understanding was Pervez Musharraf's time actually.
Yeah.
This is the same
It's
curriculum.
federal based at federal level.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. And minor changes, have been made, by the provinces, but no significant. So it's the same curriculum. Yeah.
Right, and it is being developed by private sector, public sector.
No, this is the public sector curriculum. This
Totally being designed by the public.
Yeah, this was developed under the Federal Ministry of Education in 2006. With consultation of the provinces.
Federal education and professional training, they have been developing curriculum, and they have been requested all the private partners during the curriculum revision. Representative from the elite private schools have been part of those team, which actually Mushtaq Saab will endorse that, because actually a rep from his system also participated in this revision.
I don't know about the exact facts, but one thing I know for sure is that our curriculum does not promote creativity and imagination and critical thinking, exactly. And other day I was reading the Hard Times by Charles Dickens, and it talks about that a nation cannot survive without imagination, and if you want to move forward, you have to imagine, you have to be creative. And here I would like to give credit to the private sector in Pakistan, because their curriculum is focused primarily more on creativity and imagination as compared to the government setup.
Okay, and who's going to tell us, Faisal Sahab, I'm coming to you, but Vikas, who's going to tell us how to actually kick-start imagination? You're talking about experiments of the private sector and various other departments, but where is the account of that? Why are people not writing books? cataloging what has happened already so that we have some go-to guide on these matters?
Actually, at the end of the day, the onus lies with the teaching community, because it's the community that is ultimately responsible for setting up the curriculum and designing the content of the curriculum, and then the way it has to be imparted to the students. Whereas in Pakistan, we have a problem at every level. When it comes to the content, we have a problem. When it comes to the
This content, we have
basic
problem.
narrative, we have a problem. And then at the end of the day, when it comes to the style of teaching, we have a problem. So that we need to address everything so that we can be.
No, but that is the precise point. We have too much of problems, but we don't have too many of solutions. And we have to start talking about solutions. Otherwise, we will be stuck in problem. Sir, go ahead, sir.
The onus is not just on the teachers, the onus is on the state, society and the citizens. It is a collective onus. Number two, solutions. One big solution is that live and let live.
Okay.
There are a lot of good things happening in this country, but a lot of organizations and a lot of policy makers and decision makers, governments wants to come, they have political agendas. Those political agendas should not overshadow collective national objectives. And I think the global, everyone talks about charter of democracy. The charter of society needs to be signed across all bodies, and those charter of society needs to tell that these are the core values, principles and vision that as a state that we will live. National curriculum, everyone talks about content, metric and FSC. I have done metric and FSC, and a lot of people say, he has done metric and FSC. Now today he's the largest promoter of Cambridge and IB and international education. Bhai, the problem is that our national curriculum is very nice, it's very good, but it's not a curriculum, it is hurriculum. You have to hurry with it.
Yeah.
Then it becomes variculum. Everyone is worried. That's why I say that we should do bariculum, bury it, and then start with the new set of curriculum. But if things are so bad with metric and FSC curriculum, how come that curriculum has produced Farooq Patafi Saab, has produced Dr. Saab, has produced him, has produced Madam, and your Nobel Peace Prize winners, and your prime ministers, heads of states, whoever. So what is missing in the generation of our parents till 80s, early 90s? The teacher and today's teacher, there is a common difference between the passion, empathy and compassion. Those teachers, they used to inspire in your times, in convents or in government colleges or in model colleges. They were a symbol of compassion, empathy, hope, inquiry, curiosity. And today's teacher is going through a code-cracking principle of populism, of a little bit of commercialization, and at the same time, the state, society, and the community, they did not celebrate the passion and the profession of teaching. So the profession remains uncelebrated.
Let us go back to the question and answer session.
Sir,
Please.
Assalamu alaikum. Sir, as I have studied intermediate FSC, so my question is that what I have learned from FSC, that we were judged by the memorizing power. As we see that as my personal experience, I have fought very hard as a medical student. I was able to write 5 to 6 paragraphs on a topic cell. But even if you give me a microscope, I will not be able to recognize the cell. So what is the purpose that I have learned all these stuffs? So what is this going to give me benefits in my future?
Right. And who should answer this question? I mean, it's a great question. Who should answer it?
You see, first of all, I appreciate your honesty. That you see, on national television in front of your friends, you have said, I could write, I could express, but I don't know what cell is. But you do know what a cell phone is. So at the end of the day, we appreciate your honesty. There's no answer to that. It's just that we need to invest in learning to do, learning to be, and learning to learn from experience and experiment. And one of the reasons that organizations like private sector we nurture, TMUC and other good institutes and colleges, we are very student-centered. We do listen to you. You may have grievances with us, but at the same time, we are always listening. Your voice is important to us. And so this is...
I'll actually, just to qualify his point, the question is about rote learning. in this society and the way it is promoted in the classrooms, there has to be critical thinking, right? We have all agreed. But somehow when it comes to public schools even today, the teacher there will encourage you to actually memorize the answers rather than come up with an answer in the classroom when you are being examined. So how do we bring about that shift?
Syllabus, curriculum, content, curiosity, inquiry, critical thinking is missing. It's no rocket science here. And you know, for example, we in computers we are still teaching our children MO-SE, mouse. So we teach P-RINT, printer, input, output, keyboard. What are we teaching? This is something that children will learn automatically, and then they say, what have you taught? We have taught 21st century IT skills. Teaching them about input, process, peripheral drive, or a keyboard or a mouse is not 21st century IT skills as well.
Right.
So curriculum and content design, automatically the teacher has no choice than to promote discussion and debate. And the problem with rote learning is it all depends upon teacher. There are Pakistanis, those who still remember Qaid-e-Azam ke 14 Nikat, and then there is a majority of youth population which does not remember the 14 Nikat.
Right.
You have the curriculum, and then along with that
Only-
content, you have to manage the way.
Waqar Sahab, only the way of teaching or examining as well. Because when it comes to schools,
They are interrelated.
no, it becomes a board level issue. And there the examiners want you to regurgitate what has been written in the book, not what you think about that thing, right? Please go ahead.
Actually, you know, when it comes to managing a class and when it comes to managing a class in an active way where you're teaching students in an experiential way, and as students, you know, a different set of skills are involved. So through that students, you know, actively learn something, and it basically fascinates them, and they are being engaged. And that is why through that they can retain a bit, because you know, when in a learning trajectory you have to retain few of the concepts, and then after retaining them you can apply them, and then after application comes the synthesis, you know. So these all things are interrelated and interdependent and cannot be isolated, whereas you know, that is why I'm a big propagator of that. It's about the way you teach in a class and the way you engage students in a class, because students have to retain something.
Right, Dr. Saab, in the reverse order, but Dr. Saab,
Thank
please
you.
go ahead.
So just want to add a bit here, you know, in terms of, you know, trying to set in some reality also to the situation, that we should also not forget that our public sector classrooms are sort of not as ideally designed or constructed or exist, you know, as, you know, most of us, you know, have seen, you know, the classrooms, you know, most of us coming from the private schools education system. So you have 80 children in a classroom, you have 100 children, you have 120 children, you have schools where one teacher is teaching 6 grades at the same time, you have schools where you have 2 teachers teaching, you know, 3 grades apiece. So these are the realities of our public sector education also. So there is little that is left, you know, given the scale that the public schools are handling in terms of innovations. Yes, everything agreed, you know, with the colleagues, you know, that they said here, but there's also a reality to this.
Right. But coming back to the quality of learning and rote learning, right? Will it, fixing the examination system, where instead of asking questions which are subjective, you go for objective type questions, will that solve some of the problems?
It could, and the examinations, you see, the curriculum is now also based on the basis of student learning outcomes. So you have higher order thinking skills, you have lower order thinking skills. This is how the curriculum is designed, and this is how the questions, you know, in examinations are also being framed now. Many of the assessments are using multiple choice questions as well as, you know, small answers or constructed response questions. So yes, we are moving to, you know, where the critical thinking skills and analytical skills of students are being tested, but we are a long way from that.
Right. Sadia Sahiba, your take?
Yeah, coming back to the question and the discussion over here, like examination system needs reform in it actually. We have been like spending time and money and amount on the classroom methodologies and teachers training, but how that teachers learning in the classroom has been assessed and examined is the benchmark, because the teacher will be teaching the student only in the ways to get grades, because that is the frame of her performance evaluation. So actually the reform in the examination system would lead the key change in the classroom methodology as well. It goes the reverse way.
But I'm not going to let you go that easily.
Yeah.
The question
Yeah.
now has to be that we have been at it, at fixing the problem for quite some time. Why are we at exactly the same point where we were 20 years ago? I mean, this debate of rote learning was quite, visible back then as well, 30 years ago as well. But why don't we actually fix the problem?
There is one answer is political and other is like strategical.
Yeah,
Political,
you can
yeah.
give me both.
Sustainability of the political government's objectives is one of the major issue, and then also the society we are living in, and actually like you can simply say कि जो नंबरों की जो रेस लगी होती है, and to enter into any renowned professional university, the numbers to qualify that merit matters a lot, and examination system is producing that percentage, that high numbers to get student qualified to admit to certain universities. So it's a little messy business. Actually, like not only that we need to like reform the examination system, but also we need to like take care of many other areas. Instead of putting on merit lists in the universities, there should be some aptitude testing. There should be some other form of entrance examinations.
Yeah, but that is again, you're right, but when you were pointing out that there is a political bit to it as well.
Yeah.
Because arbitrary decisions are taken and then they are reversed without any thought or forethought. And that used to happen to my generation as well.
Yeah.
Zaul Haq's time, one day or the entire curriculum is Urdu, the next day it is English, then back to Urdu, then your uniforms kept on changing and stuff of that sort happened. I have time only for one more question and then we have to start concluding the program. Please.
My question is that right to education, where are we now, and are we updating our test books like in metric or FSC in public or private sector, KPK or federal board? Like we have seen in the social media last week that class 9 or 10 metric computer science books are not updated since 1990s, 2001. Are we updating our test books up to date every year? And my question is to Swetha Mushtaq and ma'am.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask all of you to actually reply to that, but kindly integrate one more aspect of it. While Faisal Saab and ma'am, we are talking about updating curricula, we haven't been able to actually come up with the idea of involving or integrating social media in our classrooms. I mean, is there a place for that in the classroom as well, and whether we are one day going to talk about it or not?
I don't think that there should be space for integrating social media in the classroom.
YouTube all included.
We talk about integrating and including ICT. Now, ICT means information communication technology. It is an integrator, it is a facilitator, and it is a cross-cutting subject. When you're talking about teaching and learning, you've got to do with a multidisciplinary and transdisciplinary approach. You can't just teach one subject by one tool. So you have to vary, bring in different subjects and teaching different tools. Curriculums and textbooks, there is provincial textbook boards, they review, they have a system, printing and publishing. To me, as a practical and a prudent Pakistani, and taking the opportunity of this amazing television show tonight, I must say that we have a lot of good practices in Pakistan today. One should not just be giving ideas for free. Let's all work together, especially the government sector, in implementing their existing policies, practices, principles. If you read the constitution of Provincial Institutes of Training and Federal Directorate of Training, trust me, you would not find better manuals in other developed countries.
Right.
So the sum of the policies, structures, manuals, principles, constitution is all there. All we need is a prayer and is a commitment.
And commitment and motivation. But while you're talking about that, those protocols that might exist, they might have been developed back in 1920s or 1910s, and that becomes a problem. Vakasa, very quickly, then I have to.
In fact, like as Faisal Sahab answered about the curriculums at the school levels, I come from a university where course outlines are updated every semester. So we at times teach very modern and contemporary things, and along with the classical things as well. So our curriculums are updated regularly. And as far as in fact, introducing information and communication technologies in teaching, that is very important, and they are very good
Once
software.
again, you are going back to ICT, right?
Exactly.
And the problem is that term seems to belong to the previous decade. Now you are
Actually,
talking about something that keeps on rolling forward.
If you're talking about, so for instance, if you're talking about YouTube, that it can be a good
YouTube,
educational.
even interaction with some of the leading opinion leaders,
There is,
especially at the university
there are
level.
certain other websites like Khan Academy and other websites which
Yeah.
are being. Then there are systems like
Khan Academy
Canvas.
is primarily an app.
But the thing is that these are a few of the internet things that can be used, and then it depends at what you're teaching. For instance, you're teaching something applied, you can have your campaign designed and can be, social media platforms can be used to propagate that campaign. So information and communication technology is more relevant as compared to social media.
Okay, so we are not going to update the, change the terminology.
Farooq bhai, I forgot to mention the most important concept when it comes to teacher training and education is disruption. Now, these days, around the world, I go and talk about disruptive teaching and disruptive learning. आपकी और हमारी उम्र में the child used to only get disrupted by seeing the chipkali on the wall. But today you have multiple tools of disruption. Technology is one, digital media is another one, social media is another one tool of disruption. So our teachers are teaching in very traditional ways, whereas the child is distracted. A common example of an early years teacher, children, good morning. Is the day sunny or is the day cloudy today? So the child says part sunny, part cloudy.
Okay,
That didn't happen before.
That is good. But Dr. Saab, your take, sir.
I mean, I won't, respond to the curriculum and, because that has already been, you sir also talked about the right to education, right? This was part of the question. So, I'll just make a quick comment on that there's, roughly about 22 million, Faisal Sahab, you said, children which are out of school currently in Pakistan. The government is a signatory to various, treaties, internationally, which sort of enforce the right to education. But there are issues of resources, there are issues of facilities, infrastructure. So there are initiatives, underway and reforms underway to engage, these children and provide them the opportunity to be part of the mainstream education. But the challenges are immense. But, in terms of sort of, the realization, a sense of responsibility that, I've seen exists in all the provinces. But I think the resource constraint is massive to induct all these children and make them part of the mainstream education.
And first it has to begin with imagination. Adding more imagination to the system. Ma'am, your conclusion?
Updation of the textbook. Most of the board of examination, like in Islamabad, we have Federal Board of Examination. They review the textbook every year and they update their list. But yes, they need to coordinate more frequently and update more frequently. But every year they connect with the teachers and the schools and colleges, and they come up with different textbooks. It's not true that they have been teaching very obsolete books. They have been a system of updation of textbook in all the federal boards.
Right.
Yeah.
One quick question before I actually
Yeah,
conclude,
okay.
and that is to you, ma'am. Why are we not using electronic books in the classrooms? I mean, we keep on killing paper, using paper for publishing, books. E-books are now very cheap, and we don't even want to introduce that platform in the classroom.
Yeah. Actually, that also need a mega shift of the system. I'll give you one example that we as a society are not yet willing to this change. Recently, federal government, federal ministry actually revised curriculum, and class 6 textbook have been revised and developed according to new curriculum. Okay. And because of the time strain, we actually were not able to publish that book up, and the books have not been given to students. And alternatively, what we did actually, we took chapters in the PDF form and uploaded on the websites and told all the teachers and parents that you can actually access those chapters from the website. And so the teacher learning process be continue in the classrooms. And there have been big media headlines, and that after 2 months have been passed and the children are still not having the textbook, they are not yet willing for this change.
All right. But I was not merely talking about PDFs. because that is one inflexible, mode. There are others which are more fluid.
actually-
And you can use the e-book readers as well. Perhaps somebody will have to bring that to Pakistan too. On that, we have to actually conclude the program. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, give the panelists big hand. And now give yourself a big hand as well for being a wonderful audience. Thank you very much. Now let me thank our panelists personally as well. Sadia Adnan Sahiba, thank you very much for your participation. Dr. Fawad Shamsab, thank you very much, sir, for being here and your valuable comment. Waqas Salim, you keep on coming to my programs. I'm eternally grateful, but today also your contribution was really valuable. And Faisal Mushtaq Sahab, thank you very much for your time as well. Viewers, you have listened to our participants. You have seen the interaction between the floor and the panel as well. These questions will continue. But one thing that needs to be said, a few days ago, a few months ago, we had national election, and one party was using a slogan called Vote Ko Izzat Do. There is some way to that kind of a slogan as well. But someday we have to start asking ourselves, when are we going to say, teacher ko bhi izzat do? The day we are going to have that kind of an attitude in the society, and when we are going to give our 100% to revising and reforming education system, only then we are going to have that kind of results that we need. This was today's program. Thank you very much for watching us. Take care.